So recently, a new not remake, I should say remaster has come out. Dot Hack GU The Last Recode. So you remember, I don't know, you'd probably have to be an old timer to remember the Dot Hack series. It had a lot of anime. I know, well, basically with Hack, it's a very big franchise. And what they do is they put dot hack / and then you list which particular piece of the franchise you're dealing with. So two of the popular anime adaptations of Hack was one was Roots and another one was called Sign. Those were popular in my childhood, but this was like in the early 2000s, like a decade, almost 2 decades ago. They were very old school anime. I know that Sign was actually produced, or I don't know if I should say produced or published, but it was pretty much made by some of the makers of Gainax, the Gainax animation studio. You could recognize some of the art style. I know, yeah, with Dot Hack's Sign, you'd recognize it was the same artist who actually worked on Evangelon, NGE. And it had some of the issues as well. Like, Sign had kind of I don't want to say it's a shitty ending, but it leaves a lot to be fulfilled. It was okay. I'm not spoiling it. It has a shocking ending, but it's kind of it's definitely rushed. And the thing is with the anime Hack Sign was that it was very slow. The dialogue would make you fall asleep, and it would have a quick action scene, but then it'd be like another 10-20 minutes of boring dialogue. But it was okay because the world building and the lore was pretty amazing. The characters were interesting too, lots of character development. But anyways, this is to talk about GU The Last Recode. So this is just a remaster of the GU Hack series, and it contains volumes 1 through 4. I actually only played through, so this is like a second trilogy of Hack games. There was actually a trilogy of games that came before this. You don't have to have played that previous trilogy to play this trilogy, The Last Recode. You don't have to, because there's a lot of supplementary materials that come with this remaster. So you can just watch that. It comes in the form of, well, it is a lot to go through, but you just have to spend a couple hours and it'll explain it thoroughly. You won't understand all of the little details, but it does a job good enough. I did play a few of these games when I was younger, and I quit it. And I was thinking, hey, I saw this in Steam, and I'm like, hey, I remember this from a long time ago. I never finished it. Maybe I'm older and more mature now. I'll try to pick them up, try them again. And maybe I'll find out why I quit it. And I played through them, and I found out why I quit it. I'm almost finished with the 3rd volume. I'm almost done with this remaster. So I'll give you my thoughts on it, and sadly why I think it failed back then, and why it didn't do well, and why the people, the developers, they want to make a little bit more money off the remaster. It seems that they want to make more of the Dot Hack games. I don't think they can. I don't think this is going to do that well at all. And I'm looking at this, and I'm playing it, and it's very obvious why it failed in the first place. So I guess you have to start with GU Volume 1. So as I said, yeah, this remaster comes with 4 games, so it's kind of a good deal. You'll get your money's worth if you can handle it. But the problem with this game is that it's like the anime. This is why I was talking about the anime in the beginning. These games are slow. In fact, one can argue that the volumes should have just been one damn game. It shouldn't have been split. Like this plot, like when you play Volume 1, one of the games on its own, the plot leaves it a lot unfulfilled. It's actually kind of shitty. Lots of loose ends. Like this whole thing, even though they make it look like it's so many games, I think this 4 volumes or 3 volumes even, it could have just been made into 2 games or even just 1 game. If it was 1 game, it would have been maybe a bit more successful. Instead, they try to do a half-assed thing, say, oh, hey, we're going to make 3 games. That was the problem with the previous trilogy of games as well. They did something similar. One of the reasons I got kind of pissed. So this game, it has... let me talk about the gameplay, actually. The gameplay is shitty. It has a feature where you can make your own dungeons, so it's like randomized dungeons. There's only like 4 or 5 different environments, like caves, grass field, and you run around them, and it's like they make it like a series of islands or a series of corridors, and you can explore them. It's almost like a dungeon crawler. It's not like as hardcore as a dungeon crawler, but yeah, it has a feature where you randomize the dungeons by using these words. You put words together, random adjectives, and you make your own dungeons. And then in the game you have the mandatory dungeons you have to go through as well. You have lots of characters and stuff too. And with Volume 1, the plot is really slow, and it's kind of shitty. It's because of the fact that they don't have any unique dungeons. And you want to remember that Volume 1 came out when really good, hard, heavy-hitting JRPGs was coming out. So I can understand why. I'm pretty sure this came out the same time as like Final Fantasy 12, and it's obvious you'd want to play FF12, and why this game got shelved by many people, even kids. I as a kid, well, I had enough money to buy both of them, but even I knew after playing GU Volume 1 for a few minutes, I realized, hey, this is actually really shitty. And I played Final Fantasy 12 for just a few minutes. I'll play Final Fantasy X for just a few minutes, and I would see why it's such a masterpiece. Everything, it gives you so much more in less time. You don't have to grind so much, and you get unique. It's a like Final Fantasy is a linear experience, but it feels fun. This game, GU Volume 1, it's repetitive. You have to do lots of grinding. I'm not spoiling anything with the GU series, but you have to go and grind through random dungeons all the time. Yeah, there's a few unique lines of dialogue for the characters. There's lots of interesting characters. And I will admit that the world building is amazing, but in the first volume at least, there's only 2 towns and just a bunch of randomized dungeons. And here's the kicker: most of the storyline bosses, actually not even just in volume 1, most of the storyline bosses in all 3 of the games are done in fucking arena matches. It's just so stupid. Okay, I understand if you want us to do a few arena matches to progress the storyline of the game. But what these developers did is they actually put the actual unique boss battles and the actual characters you have to fight in the arena. It's like, okay, here, do this arena match. Okay, good. Now you have to go grind on the random dungeons on your own, and then you can do another arena match. And this game, Volume 1 especially, it'll let you do them however you want, but it's like you beat the storyline boss in the arena, and then you can immediately fight another one if you want. But the thing is, if you do that without grinding in the randomized dungeons, you're gonna get your ass kicked, because now there's a big level jump. So you are expected to grind between these storyline events. That's one of the things I really hate. And the thing is, it's grinding. Yeah, there's a few unique side quests. Yeah, maybe they have a couple of lines of dialogues, but they're not good side quests. It's mostly just fetch quests and kill this quest. And yeah, I mean, if you're smart. Okay, one thing about this remaster is that they did work on it a bit to speed up animations. There's a new retry button, so if you lose after a big dungeon, you don't have to worry. You can just retry the battle. This kind of stuff. They actually did put improvements of life additions in this remaster, but it's still shitty, and this is why I hated the game when I was younger. This is why I didn't even finish the game when I was younger, because it was just so grindy. Even as a kid, I realized something's not right. This game is, I do love how this game has so much supplementary material. There's a whole bunch of animations you can watch. This game has an email system. This game is pretty much, it's a fictitious MMORPG. It's a single-player JRPG, but it pretends like it's an MMORPG. And they actually do put a good amount of work in pretending so. You have these forums you can read, and it just has a bunch of these posts, and this is how you can actually unlock some new dungeons. There's still randomized dungeons, but the forums and stuff, it's actually really, interesting. You can read emails from your buddies. Yeah, it's not really a good system. It's not like it's randomized. No, it's always fixed. What you will see is always fixed. It's pre-programmed in. But yeah, they definitely did put a lot of effort, but this kind of effort is low budget effort. Yeah, you can put so much lore into the game, and I will admit that they put so much effort into each of the main characters, and they put a lot of effort into the world, and not just that, they put so much effort in just the lore of .hack as a whole into this game. If you're a big fan of the whole series, then yeah, you'll like this. But The gameplay is one of the fundamental pieces of playing a game. I don't like Reggie. I hate Reggie. I don't like Nintendo that much. But when Reggie says, "Oh, what's the point of playing a game if you're not having fun?" I actually kind of believe that. I mean, I go to work and then I come home and I'm tired. Like, why do I want to grind? Like, sometimes grinding is okay if it's done once in a while. Sometimes you can pop in a playlist on your computer and then you just grind away. But this game, it has no unique dungeons. It is actually, it almost feels like Monster Hunter, but without the good aspects of Monster Hunter. You know what I mean? It's just randomized dungeon, and you can find a few unique bosses, but it's mostly shitty. It's just about collecting loot. Yeah, it doesn't take that much work to overpower your characters. This game actually does have a leveling system, but the thing is, this game's leveling system, it works like this. If you're 10 levels below an enemy, you'll do like exponentially less damage. And if you're 10 levels above the enemy, you will do exponentially more damage. You know what I mean? So it's one of those kinds of games where you actually have to level up. It's not one of the games where you can actually just stay at level 1 and buy really good equipment. No. And in fact, the equipment will have level requirements as well. And in fact, you have to promote your character's class in the game. And to do that, you will have to get a certain level anyways. So the cool thing about this game is that it's 3 games, but you can carry over your progress between each of the volumes, like volume 1, 2, 3. But even the other volumes are kind of shitty. I was hoping that only the first volume was low budget. And I was hoping, okay, maybe volume 1 is the only volume that has all of this, how do I say it, arena battle boss fights. But no, I played through the second game, I played through the third game. It's just more arena. Like, why are they putting their actual main storyline bosses into the arena? I don't get it. Why did they do that? And then you have to do a bunch of pointless grinding on the side. I love the story, I love the environments, I love the world as a whole. I love how there's so many NPCs that are not randomly generated. You'll recognize the NPCs. There's only so many NPCs, but they pretend like it's an actual MMORPG, and they don't half-ass that. Like, it actually does feel like it's an MMORPG. You have all the forums, and the forums are like forums you'd see back in the old days, like back in the early mid-2000s, back when forums used to be like a community. They used to be so much fun. And then there was one site that was, it's not like DeviantArt nowadays. It was like the old school DeviantArt kind of stuff where you'd share your artworks. It was like the old image boards, like the old 4chan before everything like became fucked like it is now. The old days. And it's really amazing. Like, I almost like was feeling like crying when I was looking through all the supplementary material in this game, because this game came out like a decade ago, and it actually takes place in 2017, which is probably why they made the remaster in this year. It's kind of like how NGE, Neon Evangelion Genesis, sorry, I mixed up that word, Neon Genesis Evangelion, how that came out in the 90s, but it was set in 2014. It's like that. Like, it's meant to be, this game, Hack GU Volumes 1 to 3, it's meant to be take place far off into the future, where it's kind of like it's not, I wouldn't say it's a dystopia, but it's different, like with virtual reality and all that. And that .hack came before Sword Art Online SAO. So it has a lot of this feels old school, and you can tell it's old school, but it really brought back a lot of fond memories. So it's like with this trilogy, I like everything except the gameplay itself. Sounds weird, huh? But yeah, and it sucks because back in the old days, like 2000s, the internet wasn't as popular. You didn't have as many reviewers. You only had the big companies who were able to review games early. So sometimes, what happened a lot in the old days is that you just randomly buy something because it had a cool looking cover, and then you play it for a few minutes and realize, oh no, I got scammed. But I mean, well, in Canada at least, the games were a little bit cheaper back then, so I didn't mind that much, and it's appearance money, so I didn't really mind. But yeah, I quit this game a long time ago. Now I can play it. I've actually played through it quickly. I play it smart. This game does have little features in it, like you can customize your weapons. It's easy to inflict status effect on the enemies and the bosses. but you will have to grind because of the level requirements, as I said. If it wasn't for that, you probably wouldn't have to grind at all. I would have probably been able to beat the bosses with just good equipment if there weren't so many level requirements in place. But because you can play the game smart, it's possible to do that. But I don't mind that the game doesn't have any big choices. There are a few choices I heard by the end of the third volume. There's not really choices otherwise. Like, there's affinity levels for the side characters and stuff. And I will admit that over the course of the 3 volumes, yes, there will be a lot of characters you can recruit, but at the same time, in games where you have lots of characters you can recruit, you don't really get as much unique dialogue options as a result. There's actually is a lot of good cutscenes, but the thing is the dungeons are repetitive, so it's like, beat this random dungeon, and then you can get this nice cutscene. And I will admit that while they're not as good as like the Final Fantasy cutscenes, they did put a lot of work into the cutscenes of these games. But again, the plot is slow. Volume 1 doesn't even like have a proper ending. I would argue that even Volume 1 and 2 should have just been combined, because it leaves so much to be desired. It's like, as I said, these games came out within a year within each other, and back then in the 2000s, yeah, games did have smaller development cycles, kind of, but I still do think they could have just merged the games together. They were just trying to be cheap asses. But this series, .hack, which CyberConnect, the developers of the games, were licensed to use, this is one of their flagship titles. So I can see why they want to do a remaster and prove to the people, hey, to their people who give them funding, they want to say, hey, look at the remaster, it sold so much, can we make another game? I don't know, they'd probably have to make, if they were given funding, they would have to make another low budget game. They couldn't make a big high budget game again. No. But otherwise, the graphics do get slightly better as you move from volume to volume. So I played through the 3rd volume, and and sometimes there's even more conveniences added. Like, I know from the 2nd volume onwards, you have an alchemy system, so you can combine duplicates of weapons instead of just selling them for gold. You can combine duplicates of the weapons together to form a slightly stronger version of that weapon, so that's a nice addition. But otherwise, it's not much. This is an action RPG. It doesn't really have as much detail in the gameplay mechanics like the Tales of series. It kind of is like that, but no, this game is more of just mash A, block with the B button, and I'm using an Xbox controller, so A, B, and then you can do a special move once in a while, but you can't really do proper combos that easily. You can do combos, and you can kind of juggle enemies, but it's not as sophisticated as Tales of games. And you have to remember that these games came out in a really, really difficult time. When you have the big people like FF12, everyone bought FF12 back then. And this game really went past a lot of people's radars. And in fact, I don't think you would really appreciate this game as much as a kid. I appreciate it as an adult. Looking back on this game more as a piece of history rather than an actual game, because of all the stuff that it has, all of the little artwork, because, they put so much work into making a fake forum for the game in the game. You know how this is supposed to be like a game within a game, so they put an email system and they put forums in this game. You can't really send, sometimes, you can send a few email options, but they're just very small small options that you can change. It's not like it'll be different each time. No, you'll always see the same emails and stuff, which they have to do because they can't make the system too complex. But when you go through the forums in the game, you'll see lots of this purposely shittily drawn artwork and stuff, kind of like if you play the new South Park game, how you can collect the yaoi, which is made by I think they actually got DeviantArt fans of the game and this show to make them the yaoi. But in this game, it's like they purposely made, they either took fan art or they purposely made shitty looking drawings, but it's just so interesting to look at, Isn't it kind of weird? I don't like the game for being a game. I like it as something unique, someone who tried to do something unique back in the old days and failed, I think. But looking at all of the features, so much detail put into it, and not just that, like they even put in like stuff so that you would understand the previous game. Like you just don't see. And I know it doesn't take that much money to do, but nowadays, you know what? Nowadays, how different it is. The reason the game failed is because of what 2006 and stuff was when the time when the games industry was changing. It was about that time when the budgets for games started increasing exponentially. It was insane. Yes, some games were still having year-long cycles, but some games like Final Fantasy XII, that was the start of when each game would take like 5-10 years to come out. I know Final Fantasy XII actually had a troubled development history with so many different directors taking on the project over so many years. And, you know, that hack didn't do anything unique. They rushed out the games at the time. They didn't know what was going to happen. No one really did. And nowadays what you see is games with enormous budgets, and it's all focused on the graphics, a little bit on the gameplay, but all the money goes to graphics, and not just that. All of the money also goes to marketing. So it's like pretty much half to marketing, half to the graphics, and then a little teensy bit of money to cutscenes and teensy bit otherwise, and it's sad nowadays. So you don't really, I mean, sometimes you'll see games with a good lore, good codex entries, but this game, damn, it's so interesting to look at what I missed out on back then. I don't like the game. Isn't it so funny? I will keep defending that. The gameplay is repetitive, and the thing is, you can't survive. It's not like Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is like a real life example of a kind of an MMORPG where you would grind, but it was acceptable because you could actually hang out with friends. In this game, sadly, you can't. But they tried to put so much effort into like making it feel like it was. They tried hard, even though it doesn't, again, I'll keep saying it, doesn't take much of a budget to do all of these, fake community forums and stuff. It doesn't take much of a budget at all, but I still do appreciate the work they did. So do I really recommend this package? Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, if you want to get into the .hack franchise, again, it's a very old school franchise. I don't feel like they're making any more games anytime soon. I feel like maybe they're making more manga and stuff, if you want to read those manga. Maybe, who knows if an anime is coming out for it, but otherwise, it was mostly just a series that was from the old days. So I don't know if you would like it if you're a younger audience. I think that I've seen a lot of Steam reviews, and a lot of people have bought this game simply because it had a lot of games in it, but they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. So hopefully with this little review and talk, you'll know what you're getting yourself into if you choose to buy the game. I kind of recommend it, simply because of how old school it is. Like it really is a blast to the past. There's no other way to put it. It's a grind, but you can kind of, if you're playing the PC version, you can always cheat and make things go a little faster for yourself. But, I was gonna go say, I was reading Steam reviews, and a lot of people didn't know what they were getting themselves into. And then you see so many people on Steam complaining because, it's such a low budget JRPG, random dungeons, and hell, some people even thought that it was gonna be an actual MMORPG. That's stupid, but you have to remember, not every consumer is gonna do research about the product. They just want to be given a short trailer and just buy the product. They're not going to do extensive research like you and me. Like, it is only a minority of the consumers who actually read YouTube and stuff. Most people, hell, a lot of people are just millionaires, just buying a bunch of games to kiss ass to their nephews and shit. That's how it is nowadays. But all I can really say again, and I'll say it again, is that if you want to experience something from the old days, and you don't mind a little bit of outdated, possibly shitty gameplay, play this. It's interesting. It's interesting to see what I missed. If you don't really like the JRPGs nowadays, this might give you a little blast in the past, but again, I warn you, it's very, very budgeted. The first volume of the game has only like 2 towns, and then they increase it to 3 and 4 towns afterwards, but it's not anything special. It's still really shitty and really low budget. I could tell it was low budget as a kid, and I can tell it's low budget now. So yeah, so be careful. It's definitely not for everyone. I wouldn't even call it like an indie game. It's just it's a product from an old time, from a bygone era. If you enjoyed watching the content within this video, please consider giving it a like. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel so that you can be the first to see all of my latest videos.